What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves, physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago, we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique.
Help other people to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores Cannon has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT. Now you can learn her method by going directly to themoreshow.com/QHHT. And don't forget to mention the discount coupon MORETALKS. I'm now joined with past life regressionist and hypnotherapist Dolores Cannon. Now, Dolores specializes in the recovery and cataloging of lost knowledge. Dolores has written 17 books based on her credible information she has brought forth from thousands of patients she has regressed throughout her 40-year career. She has also pioneered her quantum healing technique, which she has used to provide healing with astonishing results. Dolores now travels the world teaching healing and sharing a message of hope and love. Dolores Cannon, welcome to the show.
All right, thanks for having me.
Dolores, it's an absolute honor to have you on the show today. And you've joined us before and we've spoke via video link about your past life regression work. And, you know, fascinating and an immense amount of information. But today I want to try to sort of just briefly go over your work again. So for the new audience that have joined us now who haven't heard about you before. So past life regression, how did you get into that and what's it all mean?
I'm not going to go into the whole story because it's way too long, but I began in the 1960s, over 40 years ago. And back before, no one did any past life regression. It wasn't even heard of back in those days. The only thing you used hypnosis for was habits, stop smoking, lose weight. And that's when I started out. So people have said I'm like a pioneer because I began before any of it was out there. Nobody knew about reincarnation, past lives, metaphysics, New Age. There wasn't any of that. So that's when I started out, and everything was totally new. But to condense it, my husband was in the Navy for 21 years as a veteran, and we were stationed in a Navy base in Texas. And a doctor there asked us if we would help one of his patients. She had very obese, and she had what was called nervous eating. Her kidneys had problems and her high blood pressure. And all he wanted us to do was relax her. Just to get her relaxed, he thought that might help. Well, when she was being relaxed, she goes into a past life. You got to remember, this was unheard of. Nobody knew what this was. The only book out at that time was The Search for Bridie Murphy. And that book wouldn't even be published today. It's too simple. But that was where we were at that stage. But people said, well, didn't this scare you? And I said, no, because I'm so curious. I always want to know everything about everything. So I thought, this is new. This is something different. Let's explore it.
But it must have felt a bit, obviously, different to be going down that avenue, you know, particularly in that time.
Yeah, because nobody even talked about it. Nobody knew anything about it. But she goes into a past life in the Roaring 20s in Chicago. Was a flapper with the gangs, and so it was interesting, so we kept up with it.
But hadn't someone called Edgar Casey had been reporting past lives in his books?
But he did his books weren't out at that time. You remember?
Oh, is that right?
They came out later.
Right.
He did his work earlier, but you know, he did it in a different way. He was channeling. They didn't call it that in those days, and they had no tape recorders, so his wife took notes. He wanted everything in some kind of form, so she would take notes. And he just went into a self-trance and answered questions.
Right.
Which was different. But no, none of that was even known. Edgar Casey wasn't even known in those days.
So how deep are you taking these people? And before you answer that, I mean, there's lots of regressions everywhere in the world. You know,
Now there is,
now
but there
is.
wasn't
Yeah,
then.
it's quite a sort of big thing to take people into their past or future lives. Now, they would say that they're sort of taking them to a level which they're connecting with their higher self, they call it. But most of these patients, when they come out of that particular experience, and I've gone and done a past life regression as well, and I was just as guilty of using these words. I've made it all up.
Sure, they all say that.
So how deep are you taking them?
The deepest possible level there is. The other hypnotists are taught to keep them in the light level. In the light level, the person is going to remember a lot. They'll say, oh, I made a whole thing up. This is silly. Nothing was working. I read it in a book. I saw it in a movie. That's the light levels of trance.
How deep? I mean, how do you take someone that deep, though?
I get the conscious mind out of the way. The conscious mind is the one that's saying those things. I made it up. I read it in a book, etc., etc. Because the conscious mind has to be in control, even though it doesn't know anything. That's the way it is. So in the technique that I use, we push the conscious mind out of the picture. And I go into the deepest possible level of trance, which is called the somnambulistic level. At that level, the person doesn't remember what they said or did. Okay. So you get we're traveling in time. It's like I call it a time tunnel. You're back in time.
So is that the same as some people say connecting to your higher self?
That's a different thing altogether. What they're saying is not what they're really doing.
Do they understand what they're doing when they use those words?
I don't think so. They say that. They're not doing it.
Okay, so all your information is taken from clients, isn't it? And sorry, did you want to finish there?
Yeah, because I have found a way to directly connect to the higher self and let it come through the clients and answer all the questions and do the instant healing. But it's different than what they say it is, because I'm the only one that's doing this and teaching it that I know of.
Okay.
Of how to do this. You get them very, very deep, and you have miraculous results.
So you're teaching people, and you've been teaching people over the many years you've been doing this. And is that in the book, in your books, the information of how to go to that level? Is it? No?
Nope.
That's something you personally teach?
I only teach it because anything is dangerous in the wrong hands, if you don't know what you're doing. So when I'm giving my classes, it's full of safeguards to make sure that they do it correctly. I tell them step by step. Follow what I tell them, and then there's no harm to anyone.
But how did you discover this technique?
Gradually, over 40 years.
40 years to discover and to build one technique up?
To perfect it.
Wow. So when you first did this, like you said in the interview, you didn't really know what you were communicating with?
No, it was just, in those days, it was just habits. Yeah. And it was a long, drawn-out inductions, watch the shiny object, those kind of things.
And you're not doing that anymore?
Oh, none of that is done anywhere anymore. It's only used on television and movies for dramatic effect.
Or, as you would say, those who are taking others to just a very shallow level.
And even that method is so outdated. If anybody's doing that, they're way behind the times. But I found a way to cut out the things that were unnecessary in hypnosis, and I added other things to make it fast and quick, and we go directly to what I call the source of all knowledge.
But how do you know that person, even though they're in that very deep trance, aren't just feeding you what you want to hear and they...
It's impossible.
Yeah.
When you're in the deepest possible level, you cannot make up anything. And besides, when we go to this higher consciousness, it always has the same voice, always uses the same terms and phrases, and no one would know what they were looking for.
I see. So that's pretty key there.
We always know when it's there.
And can you pick up conversations you've had with one person with it, and then sort of, you're with someone else in a deep trance and they're reading off what you've already talked about with someone else?
Yes.
Incredible.
This is what they do. This is the amazing thing. In my work now with the Convoluted Universe series, we're getting all these complicated theories and concepts and metaphysics that no one has ever heard of before. And that's the way it comes through. It'll come through one client, and then maybe a week later, I'll have it come through another client, and they'll add more to it. So it's never just through one person. It's through thousands of people that I work with. My job is to put it all together like a puzzle, a piece here and a piece there. And that's how I get the stories of how it all happened. It can't happen through just one person.
No.
But they don't know what I've found.
Is everything revealed once they've come out of the trance?
Yes, and everything. Well, I always have a recording that I give them.
And is there any sort of side effects from going so deep? Or?
No. They feel wonderful because that's part of the technique.
And this is a very, I would say, positive experience for them.
Very positive.
And are they digging up a lot of basic? Are some surface level problems then dug up, and answers are given to why we have these particular problems?
This is what they come to me for as a therapist and a counselor. Everybody's got problems. People are complicated. So they come to me for all kinds of problems. Physical, family relation problems, maybe problems with their jobs. Maybe they want to change career. All kinds of problems.
Is there some people you won't see, though?
Only those who I know have a definite mental disease. Because there's some that you can't help. They don't know the difference between reality and fantasy. And I'm not qualified to teach those. I work a lot with people in depression. There's no problem with that. Polar, opposite, what do you call it? Bipolar?
Bipolar, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that. And I get them off of the antidepressants. But I won't work with somebody like schizophrenia or multiple personalities because those I can't help.
I suppose you must be able to tell when someone's coming to you if you know it's worth continuing with them or not.
Oh yeah, you know.
But I meant someone who's lost someone that's in a really bad state and is coming to you for answers. Do you get those kind of people, or is it more health issues, or is it all sorts? Or
every kind of problem you could think of.
Yeah. So if someone's lost someone, for example, and they're in a very
low
state,
we work with that too.
Yeah, you can help that. And obviously, what comes through is information.
Sometimes they meet the other person in the trance and get to say goodbye to them and have the closure. So whatever it is, it doesn't make any difference what the problem is. We can work with it.
Right, okay.
I think I've had just about everything you could possibly imagine.
So it's never shocked you with some of the clients you've had come to you?
No, because I'm getting more and more complicated information all the time. See, I've done it so long that it doesn't bother you. I just say, that's interesting. What can I learn? And now let's go on to the next thing. But the information now is the complicated things. The different concepts and metaphysical concepts and theories that are mind-blowing.
Well, after the break, we'll get into more of this of the work that you do, and there must be such a diversity of subjects to cover. Oh,
there is. With 16, 17 books, there is, and more books are coming.
Yeah, and the last book that it's not your last book, sorry, but the 17th book is being worked on now. Is that right?
Yes, that's the Convoluted Four. And I just published one in June, The Three Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth. And that's what I'm lecturing on all over the world. But I was thinking there was something you asked me back. I went right through my head there that you were asked me earlier when I interrupted you. It'll come back.
Yeah,
anyway.
sure.
Okay.
We've got so much to get into, so we'll come back to that after the break. So stay tuned and we'll be right back after the break.
You're on a journey right now, a destination where you are headed full of adventure. And all around you are clues pointing you in the direction of your higher purpose and dreams. The signs and synchronicities can be seen. Whilst on a trip, at your local coffee shop, within your social networks. The road to your success and happiness is scattered throughout the pictures of our days. Simply make the connection, that's all. Channeling.com is your source for highly regarded spiritual readers who can direct you on your journey. Use the code TMS1 to receive a discount on your first reading.
Welcome back to the show. I'm currently joined with my guest, Dolores Cannon. Now, Dolores, we've got so much to go over very briefly here, but one of the questions that I was speaking to you about before was the whole idea of the regressions, and we did say that on some of these people that you've regressed, you can cure any kind of disease, but just to put it...
I'm not doing it.
No, you're not doing it. They're doing
I'm the
it. But
facilitator.
you're the facilitator for this. But just to name a few. So, for example, cancers, that can be cured.
Many people coming to me for cancer.
How can cancer be cured? I mean, surely doctors must be looking at your work and think, well, how has this
I
lady
have
done
doctors
this?
taking my classes.
Really?
Yes, and they're including it in their own practice. Well, you're not supposed to ever be sick. Never. The body is a miraculous machine that has been created to take care of itself and heal itself if we don't interfere. But you make yourself sick. And if the mind is powerful enough to make yourself sick, it's also powerful enough to heal you. First, we got to find out why. Why did you do this to yourself? What were you trying to tell yourself? Every disease is the body talking to you. Now, cancer, most of the cases we have found, is caused by suppressed anger. If the person could just talk about what was bothering them, but they don't. They hold it inside. They always say, I don't have any problems. You're the ones with the problems.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. I mean, for someone to what you're saying is they've got to take responsibility and say no matter how they feel about taking the responsibility,
if they would
they've
just
got to
talk
say
about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes it goes way back to childhood, but they hold it inside. So after a while, the anger begins to churn around, finally eat away at the organs and creates cancer.
But it must be hard for someone to take responsibility for themselves.
It is.
To say that they've caused it.
As a therapist and a counselor, to get them to talk about it and we figure out where it comes from.
But when you become ill, are you saying then that every illness you've had, you've brought on yourself?
Yeah, but I don't get sick.
What because you're more balanced than most
No,
people?
because I know how it works.
Right.
Once you figure it out, you don't get sick.
Okay.
One thing they told us, the side effect of doing what you love, what you're supposed to be doing, the side effect is perfect health.
So when you're totally in tune with yourself
In tune with what you're supposed
and
to
what
be
you're
doing,
supposed to be doing,
you don't get sick.
not even the common cold, or
Well, a common cold would mean you're working too hard. They want you to rest.
but you're talking about life-changing illnesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it's amazing. They come from all over the world to my office in this little town in Arkansas.
But someone watching this right now who can't afford that kind of trip.
I've trained hundreds and thousands of people all over the world.
So there's someone in this near
I have
in
given-
England.
I've trained
can-
many people in England,
Yeah.
and they're having the same fantastic results that I'm having.
Okay. So again, people can find your website from going to ours, which we'll put on later.
And they're
on.
all listed on the website,
listed
and
on
we
your
tell them
website.
to go to these people and tell them they want them to use my technique.
What about techniques for like healing a broken leg?
Well, some things you do need doctors for.
No, obviously, there's a procedure you have to go through, and you can, push away mainstream medicine. But I mean, if you wanted a quicker healing process, if you've had a really severe accident, then can
Well,
your
you
work
can do
help?
it. That hypnosis will do that. It'll speed up healing. You can control bleeding. You control a lot of things with hypnosis.
Okay.
But in the method I use, we go right to the source of what it is. Why did you have this? What were you trying to tell yourself?
So yeah, and like I've said, it's all about taking responsibility for
It
yourself.
is.
That's your message
And
right
there's
now.
a lot of forgiveness in there too.
Is that the same for the people we bring into our lives sometimes? If we've
Mhm.
had someone that's very, very hurtful in our life and someone that's not treated us very well, whatever the circumstance,
Well,
we've
that's
attracted
karma that you are prepaying from other lifetimes. And you made contracts with these people to come into your life so you could work these things out.
But what kind of loving God would want you to sort of have a pay back a karmic debt, though?
Why does God always get the blame for everything? God doesn't do it. We do it to ourselves.
But okay,
You create the karma in the first place. God doesn't.
true.
In another life, you did things you shouldn't have done with somebody else. It's a law. It's a law. It goes around, comes around.
Isn't that just part of the process of living, though,
Yes.
of having these different experiences? And what you're saying, we agree before we come down it to, I'll help you with this if you do this for me, whatever
Yes.
the contract may
But
be. before we
when you
come
get
down.
caught up in a life, we do things we shouldn't. Then when you're on the spirit side, after you have died, you go over your life and you say, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Is there a wrong or right, though?
And then you say, okay, Let's go back and do it again. We didn't do a very good job. This time you be the husband, I'll be the wife. You be the mother, I'll be the child.
Oh,
and
right.
you repay it.
So what you're saying here is that there's no external source judging us. We're judging ourselves.
We judge ourselves, and there's no harsher judge than you yourself.
So we are being our own God in that sense.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
you can't blame it on external forces.
no. Okay. So let's sum this up. Take responsibility for your own actions. Everything that happens in your life, you take responsibility for. That's your message.
Yes. And then forgive those that have hurt you, and that's getting rid of the old karma.
That's difficult, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's difficult. None of this is easy. People have said, how can I forgive them? You don't know what they did to me. But who is it harming? Not harming them, it's harming you. And you have to come back again the next time with the same people in the same circumstances.
Do you have to come back?
Because you haven't got it worked out, have you?
Are you forced to come back?
No, you do it yourself. Because if you go through the life and have still not worked it out, and I've had people go through 3 or 4 different lifetimes and same people, same circumstances, when are they going to learn the lesson? When are they going to get it? They haven't got it yet. You got to come back and do it again. They'll tell me, I don't want to come back with them.
And again, these lessons that you're referring to are lessons that we've set for ourselves.
But they haven't. This is karma.
Yeah.
And I'll say you have to come back with that same person and do it again if you don't get rid of it now. Well, I don't want to come back with them. And I said, you better deal with it now then.
Yeah.
Or it'll be worse next time.
So in this lifetime, it is really important to, deal with our problems and try not. But then some problems we can't seem to sort out. I mean, if it's a family member that does not want to sort things out, you can't force
then
anyone.
It's their karma.
Okay.
You take responsibility for your part in it.
Okay.
Forgiving them. You don't have to say it to them. Just forgive it in your mind.
It's just a mental projection. There's no one to write a letter.
Then it's their karma. It's their problem.
Okay.
It's off of you. That's the main thing.
Right. Okay. Well, the next bit of work I want to get into is
because this can go on. There's so many
there
parts
is a
to
lot.
all
There
of
is a
this.
lot, and
Could you see how people make themselves sick?
I can, and
Okay.
there's one to chew over. That is, and I think you've given some really good examples.
Okay.
So it's up to the people watching this to feel that it's their truth.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people will.
Do a lot of soul searching.
Love is the only answer, is it?
It is. Love is the only thing that's real. Okay.
Now, some of your clients, the majority of your clients, a lot of them, I would say, must have always gone back to having past lives on other planets.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this leads me into the ideas of the whole extraterrestrials and life on other planets. Now, tell me about life on other planets and how they've got it right compared to us.
They're much more informed than we are. We're at the bottom. We've got a lot to learn. They have got their act together. But I've spent 25 years investigating the UFO and ET phenomena. And yes, we do. We have all had lives on other planets and as ETs. You got to remember, you are not a body. You have a body. This is just a costume, a suit of clothes you're wearing right now to play this part. Other lives, you've had other costumes that look like ETs to play that part. Each life has a lesson. But I've had so many, hundreds and hundreds of these, all kinds of planets, all kinds of circumstances. We're the only one in the universe that has free will. That's the difference. And we're the only one in the universe that forgets when we come in. We forget our connections to God, to the source. They remember. They know what they're doing.
How can you know? How can you remember? I mean, how's that work?
That's what you're trying to do now, is to get back and remember. So they say the veil is thinning. We're having the awakening going on right now. That's what this is all about. Things are changing.
So what have we got wrong on this planet? What's the sort of message that's come through compared to others? What are we doing that's not working?
We're trying to stumble our ways back to remember where we came from and why we are here. Because you came back in, you made contracts with people. Let's go back and do this again. You made a plan. This is what I want to do when I come back in. Earth is nothing but a school. You go through the different grades and learn lessons in order to progress onward. But one of the major things with this school on Earth is when you come in, the veil comes down and you forget your plan. You forget your connections. And the ETs say, This is most amazing because they don't forget. They said, you're the only planet that forgets when they come in, have to find their way back. And I asked them one time when we were doing the sessions, why this happens? Wouldn't it be better if we remembered our contracts, if we remembered our plan of what we were supposed to be doing? They said it wouldn't be a test if you knew the answers.
But
this is the hardest school in the universe.
But what's their test then?
They've already done it. They have much easier lives than we do. This is the most challenging planet in the universe. You come here, you come prepared to really learn a lot, and it's very, very difficult. Not everybody chooses to come here.
So are you saying our future lives possibly could be on other planets where you don't need to go through such tough challenges?
You've already been on them before anyway.
So why would a soul want to come de-evolve then if it's coming here? Is it de-evolving?
No, it's not. It's just a different form. They learn a lot by coming here because it is so challenging. There's so much you have to learn that it's very hard. They said they greatly admire anyone who takes on the Earth's challenge. You have to be very brave.
So I suppose sometimes you might want to break from coming back here. Where would you go?
The resting place. So I've written books on the spirit side and what it's like over there and all the places you go to, what it's like to die and where you go. And the spirit side is beautiful. And you go to the level that your vibration and frequency resonates to. So hopefully when you go back, you'll go a little higher each time. But there's beautiful, wonderful places over there. But say, for instance, you have died of a traumatic death or you've had a very hard life, you don't want to get right back on the wheel of karma again. So then you go to the resting place.
Right. Well,
for as long as it takes.
We'll talk more in depth about the resting place just after the break. So stay tuned and we'll be right back after this break.
You're on a journey right now, a destination where you are headed full of adventure. And all around you are clues pointing you in the direction of your higher purpose and dreams. The signs and synchronicities can be seen. Whilst on a trip, at your local coffee shop, within your social networks. The road to your success and happiness is scattered throughout the pictures of our days. Simply make the connection, that's all. Channeling.com is your source for highly regarded spiritual readers who can direct you on your journey. Use the code TMS1 to receive a discount on your first reading.
Welcome back to the show. I'm still joined with Dolores Cannon, where we've been discussing all kinds of subjects from past life regression to the ET topic as well, haven't we, Dolores? Now, we did at the last break just talk about the whole idea of the ET aspect and how different people and different races, go through this whole school of a karmic learning school, as you say. Mm-hmm. And would you say that obviously that some of the karmic schools have different planets and ways of learning as well? Not all planets have the same karmic lessons, do they? They
all have different lessons based on what their planet is all about. But see, I've also gone into, there's many, many other universes too, where other ETs are living. And some of those universes have different laws and different responsibilities and different things. We're just knowing about Earth. We have no idea of the enormity that's going on out there.
Now, how do you get your head around that? Different universes?
Different universes.
Wow. Okay. And again, with different laws and everything?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Some of these universes have planets that are square, oblong. They'd have orbits that are elliptical, or they do loop-de-loop. And I kept saying, but that doesn't follow the law of physics. They said the law of physics on this universe.
Right.
But other universes have totally different laws and rules, as well as karmic, as well as what the beings go through. We're just limited by thinking just this little tiny planet Earth.
Is that the same as sort of saying another dimension or interdimensional travel?
Oh, that's a different thing.
Is it? Right,
yeah.
Okay. So we're not talking about multiverse here. Are we all?
Well, it goes along with that. But I've explored it all. It depends on what you want to focus on.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things I want to focus on as well is this, the whole ET craze. I mean, why from your work that you've looked into, why did the sort of ET craze happen around the 40s when Roswell happened? Or have they always been here?
They've been here since the beginning of the world. They've always been here. They're the ones that created life on Earth. So all they're doing is watching over us and taking care of us since the beginning of time. So they've been here forever. Now we've noticed them, but they've always been around. They've been taking care of us because they were responsible for creating life on Earth.
Different civilizations or one civilization?
People. They created people. And then they had to help as the species developed. They had to help them to learn things. So they lived among them, teaching them things. Every culture in the world has the legend of the culture bringer, like the Indians have their corn woman, the different one who taught them how to plant. Each civilization culture has the culture bringer. And in all of those legends, the culture bringer comes from across the sea or from the sky. And these ETs lived among these people to teach them what they needed to know. And because they don't die until they're ready to die, they became known as gods and goddesses. And that's where all your legends of gods and goddesses came from.
And is a lot of this sort of tied into mainstream religion then? Some of the, old texts that refer back to, these particular kind of situations?
Yeah, because they've been here since the beginning, helping us and showing us what to do. But they can't interfere. See, that's one of the main things. They said, give this beautiful planet a creature with knowledge and intelligence and free will and see what he does with it. We're the only planet in the universe that has free will.
But how can you create free will? I mean,
they give us free will to see what we were going to do with it.
So the free will in the sense of, you're saying our free will is that we believe we're alone.
No, we believe we can do anything we want. That's free will. But also one of the other regulations was the law of non-interference, the Star Trek law. It's not fiction, it's real. Once a civilization has started developing, they cannot interfere with its development.
Well, is it not true that Gene Roddenberry, he actually channeled a lot of his information or had the information
He didn't channel it.
No, he didn't, but...
Phyllis Schlemmer did.
Yes. And
he lived in her house for 20 years.
Is that on public record?
Well, I know about it because I know Phyllis and I know all the people that were involved. He lived in her house for 20 years and they had channeling sessions where most famous people in the world sat in on these sessions. So what he did was take the information that was coming through, and he had the knowledge and the ability to turn it into stories and make it into eventually TV.
So it was never really his original work. It was
adapted, but with channeling, he had to take the ideas and the stories and make the characters. So she was the catalyst that started it.
Well, for us to be having this conversation right now on TV, there must be a great change happening in the world.
Oh, yes, there's a terrific change happening. We're living in very exciting times right now. Things that have never happened in the history of the universe are happening right now.
So what do you see this change as?
Well, they're extremely positive. We finally are getting our act together, and they're allowing things to move. The entire Earth is moving into another dimension. Another vibrations and frequencies of the whole Earth are changing to what's called the New Earth. And this is in the Bible, too, in the book of Revelations, when they talk about the new heaven and the new earth. It's just that it's happening right now.
And what are these changes going to be once they've happened? I mean, is the economy part of the change?
Oh, economy won't matter at all.
Well, the collapse of the current economy, I mean, is this part of this big change that's going on?
You call it collapse, and we don't. It's that's the world you're living in, okay. It all depends on what world you're focusing on.
What world are you focusing on?
The positive. My company is booming. I don't have any problems. See, it depends on what world do you live in.
Well,
but the old earth is where all of these things will be left.
What happens if you don't want the change? What happens if you want to live in this old world?
You'll stay with what you have created.
So where are you going?
I'm going with what's beautiful and positive.
Okay, so there's not people aren't leaving the planet as such, but there is a conscious
Two
shift.
planets. It's separating into two.
But I thought that's what you meant. Yeah.
The old Earth and the new Earth.
Not a physical separation.
Yes. But you won't notice anything has happened.
So are you talking about, like, for example, like a dimensional shift? Where some of us, we're not going to know the shift's happened.
Into another dimension. It's happening now. It started in 2003 and it's happening right now. We are moving into the new Earth. And people don't even notice. It's not going to just be bam and you're there. It's a gradual thing. It's been happening.
Do you think people are going to are finding, should I say, this change quite testing right now?
Well, you're going through a lot of things to see. Main thing is getting rid of the karma. You're going through a testing time. Do you want to stay with the old Earth? Do you want to stay on the wheel of karma? Or do you want to move on where there is no karma in the new Earth? And where it's beautiful and wonderful. Is that what you want to do?
But is no karma going to make us spiritually grow?
It's more spiritual than you can even ever imagine. And many, many people are moving there. They're moving into it right now.
Consciously or unconsciously?
They don't know it consciously. But in order to move, our vibrations and frequencies of our own bodies have to change to match that of the Earth as it moves. See, the Earth is a living being, too. And it's moving into its next incarnation. It doesn't care if we go with it. We're just as happy if we didn't go with it. We're like fleas on a dog.
Well, Dolores, very briefly, what would you like to have a last message to give to the sort of audience to sort of sum up what it is that you would like your work to live on as?
Well, I've got 16 books out there on every metaphysical subject you could possibly think of. I think I've covered it all, but then they keep saying I haven't. There's a whole lot more. But the last book I wrote in June is dealing with the new Earth and what's happening and what we're moving toward, 2012, all of that, which doesn't mean anything. It's just a number. But I'm still writing more and more books, getting out as much complicated information as I can. We've got to that point. We want to learn more. We need to learn more. We need to expand. We need to evolve. You don't want to go backwards. We want to evolve onward. Many, many civilizations have got to this point before, and they were destroyed because of man's greed and hunger for power. They said this time it won't happen.
Well, Dolores Cannon, thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, and thanks for asking me.